Ready to begin here? Denise
We are
is
recording.
So I'm going to go ahead and call to order the meeting of the Fairfax County History Commission. To conduct this meeting wholly electronically, the History Commission needs to make certain findings for the record to evidence our compliance with all applicable laws. These motions address this compliance. First, I'm going to conduct a roll call and ask each board member participating in this meeting to state your name and your location. I ask that each of you pay close attention to ensure that you can hear each of your colleagues. And I forgot my list, but we'll start with Ann Barnes.
Hi, Ann Barnes, Gunston, Virginia.
And Lynn Garvey Hodge.
In Garvey Hodge, Springfield, Virginia.
Ann Stuntz.
Stuntz near Vienna, Virginia.
Barbara Naif.
Barbara Naif, Houston, Virginia.
Barbara Peters.
Barbara Peters, Annandale, Virginia.
David Meyer.
City of Fairfax, Virginia.
Elise Murray.
Vienna, Virginia. Northeastern corner of the town.
Gretchen Bulova.
Gretchen Bulova from the Fairfax part of Fairfax County.
Mary Lipsey.
Mary Lipsey, Springfield, Virginia.
Phyllis Ford. I'm sorry, Phyllis. It's been a very long day.
Phyllis Walker Ford, Clifton, Virginia.
Phyllis Walker. Thank you.
Hey, don't
Sally.
the gavel here some place along the way.
I guess I'll give you the gavel next after I do roll call.
Oh, I'm so excited about it. All right. And I couldn't find your agenda either. So anyway, maybe somebody else can put it to me.
Well, it's not different than the draft that was sent out earlier. Sally Lyons.
Sally Lyons, Colchester, Mount Vernon District.
Okay. Subi Mehdi.
Subi Mehdi, Mclean, Dranesville District.
Sue Kovac Schumann.
Sue Kovac Schumann, Mantua.
Tammy Manarino.
Tammy Manarino, Mount Vernon, Commonwealth of Virginia.
All right. So I know that Jordan is going to be out. Bob Beach.
Yeah, Fairfax.
Okay. And do we have Steve Sherman and Carol on phone?
Yep. Steve,
Sorry, let's start with Steve. I apologize for making that confusing.
Steve Sherman in Franconia.
Okay, and Carol?
Followed by Carol Herrick and Mclean.
Okay.
And Esther.
Oh, there you are, Esther. Where are you? Oh, you're also
Esther
on phone?
McCullough in Herndon, Oak Hill, Sully District.
All right, and I'm Cheryl Rapetti in Centerville for Sully District also. And I know that Jordan is excused tonight because he is out celebrating his birthday. So
yes, he's I think 42 again. He told me. I think that's what.
My brother is always 29.
Yeah, that's always good stuff.
All right, so that is everyone. Let me also check for staff. Chris Barbashock, are you there? Just for an audio check.
I am here in Fairfax, Virginia.
And Elizabeth Crowell, are you there?
Liz Crowell of Alexandria, Virginia.
Okay. Elliot, can you hear everybody? That would be kind of critical.
I can hear everyone just fine. I'm here from Fairfax, Virginia.
Okay, awesome. And we must, there you are, Megan. Hi, how you doing? Are you just a sound check?
Yeah, Megan Lining, Fairfax, Virginia.
Okay, awesome. All right. We are now I know Lynn has been waiting with bated breath for this moment. I'm going to pass the gavel over to our vice chairperson and ask that she so that I may make the appropriate motions. I'm going to move that the History Commission certify for the record that each member's voice may be adequately heard by each other member of this board.
I'll second. Tammy Manarino.
Okay. And all in favor or?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Second, I move that, any opposition? Okay. Second, I move that the History Commission certify that the state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for this commission and the public to physically attend this meeting in person, and the usual procedures cannot be implemented safely or practically. As a result, I further move that the Fairfax County History Commission conduct this meeting electronically through a dedicated video and audio conferencing line, and that the public may access this meeting by calling 1-844-621-3956 and entering access code 173-994-1713. Finally, I have to move that the History Commission certify that the matters on this agenda today are related to the COVID-19 emergency itself, or are necessary to the continuity of Fairfax County government, and or have been statutorily required or are necessary to continue operations in the discharge of the History Commission's lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. Do I have a second for that?
In fact, I second both motions.
Oh, did I go through two motions? I did. I'm bad. So we'll vote for both of them simultaneously. And if there's any objections, we'll go back and sort it out. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Sorry, I just kept reading that right through. All right, as I mentioned, Jordan's excused. I don't believe we have any guests. And we can proceed to the minutes of, do we have a motion oh wait, Lynn, could you give me back that gavel?
I'll think about it. Okay, sure.
Thank you.
There it
I'll
is.
make the motion.
Go
This
ahead,
is Esther McCullough. I move the adoption of the minutes and pay the clerk.
All right, is there any issues did anybody have any issues with the minutes? All in favor?
I'll second it.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well,
That's good.
Esther made the motion. I am tired. I'm sorry. Esther made the motion. Do we have a second for that motion?
Second.
So, was that Barbara Peters second?
Yes.
And then now any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any oppositions or abstentions? Okay. All right. Barbara, treasurer's report.
Okay, we started our month, which began on April 26th, with $48,070.77, with a budget adjustment of $10.84, and we paid for 2 months worth of minutes for March and April, for a total of $11,030, and then FICA and Medicare for that, those 2 sets of minutes at $86.45. So our ending balance for the month ending on May 26th was $46,865.16. Any questions?
Cheryl, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry, I was just apologizing. The extended draft that I sent, I think accidentally cut off your final budget, your final number there, your end balance. Did you want to just restate that for the record, Barbara?
The ending balance for our month ending on May 26th was $46,865.16.
Okay, thank you so much. All
And
right.
if I could ask, what was the amount for the minutes?
We paid for 2 months and the minutes were $1,130 for the 2 months,
Gotcha.
plus the FICA and Medicare.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's move along. Tammy, do you have anything to update us with regard to River Farm and or Richmond Highway?
River Farm, there was a community meeting with staff. Staff had created a report about the SB 1457, which are the new authorities for the Board of Supervisors to prevent subdivision of the historic overlay district, and then also to require that public access be given. So the staff gave their report on this, and it's basically, as I understand it, changes to the zoning ordinance to allow those things to happen. The actual overview of the subdivision of the property, if it happens, would happen in the Architecture Review Board. So so that process is ongoing. They've done this community meeting. There's going to be it's going to go in front of the Planning and Zoning Board, I think on the 9th of June. And then to the Board of Supervisors. I don't have the date in my head, but that'll happen afterwards.
Denise actually has it in her report.
Yeah, the committee meeting, I mean, the community meeting was not very well attended. And I think part of it is that that people feel like the historic overlay district was a big victory and they're kind of sitting back a little bit. And I think there also wasn't big awareness of it. I've heard a couple people in the community complaining that notices are going out in the Washington Times for hearings and things, rather than Washington Post or some other place where folks would maybe more likely see it. So so that's what's going on with River Farm. And then Richmond Highway, I was talking to or emailing with Adrienne Burge Wilson of DHR, and she indicated that Federal Transit Authority had gotten back to her and said they accepted her provisional acceptance of the 106 process, and that they had addressed all of the comments that had gotten there on time, which it raised a little bit of a flag for me because I don't think that our comments, well, I know that our comments did not get there on time, and I don't know if staff's comments got there on time. So, so I don't know whether they are feeling like they can ignore staff's comments and our comments. So it's a little bit of a concern. So I need to get back to her and question her a little bit about that on Richmond Highway. So that's where things are there.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions or on either of those issues? Okay. Denise actually has an update on Soapstone Connector, which is actually not an update because they haven't done anything, but I'll let Denise address that. Carol, do you want to discuss the Mclean CBC, the Community Business District Center?
Not really. I don't have any information. The Planning Commission met last Wednesday night, and I had another meeting at the community center that night. And I thought, well, after the community center finished, I'd turn on the other committee. But the storm came, and everybody's power went out, and et cetera, et cetera. And I haven't been able to find anybody that knows what the Planning Commission decided. But whatever they decided, it goes before the Board of Supervisors this month.
Okay, and Denise actually has that in her report as well. So
I was sort of hoping she might have something. Thank you.
So Denise, be sure you review that part of it, if you could, please. All right. One Fairfax policy acknowledgements. I believe, Denise, isn't it June 30th? Is that our deadline?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So if you have not yet gone through the process of signing that acknowledgement regarding having read and are being aware of the One Fairfax policy, please do so. I will send out the instructions on one more time for anybody who needs that refreshed. Are there any questions about that? Or anybody having issues with it, not being able to access it? Okay. So then we'll move on to resuming in-person meetings. I will have to say, after struggling to get on WebEx this evening, driving is not necessarily such a sad, it kind of starts to have some appeal. Denise pointed out that it's possible, and Denise, do we have any further information on the status of the governor's position with regard to the FOIA emergency?
There's no update, but given the current climate and everything opening back up and pretty much all the provisions being lifted, I would speculate that the emergency FOIA position, emergency FOIA conditions will not be extended.
So that's
June 30th.
Yeah, so okay, June 30th is also the deadline there. So the expectation is that what we have to read at the beginning, we won't have to read that anymore. But that what we're reading at the beginning is legislation that specifically allows us to meet in this virtual format. And while we have rules in our own bylaws that allow people to participate, commissioners to participate electronically in a meeting, the meeting itself under FOIA regulations is going to have to be held in person, at least in terms of a quorum of people attending. And that's why I sent out that straw poll. I want to thank everybody for responding. Most folks responded very quickly. And just based on that, I have about 13 people who have said that, yes, they'd be willing to meet in person with varying degrees of enthusiasm about that. We would certainly, I think, the sense that I got was that we could definitely do that as a masked, with everybody wearing masks, just to add a little bit of confidence, in the procedure. And then what Denise and I will have to work out is how to involve everybody else electronically, and conduct what's called a hybrid meeting. I actually did one of those today, where we had it was a much smaller group and it was a much smaller room. And it worked, it worked fine. So, Denise and I will have to work out some of the logistics with regard to the library and how to make that work. There's a question?
I had a question. If the supervisors and other groups keep their big plexiglass in between, then we should get our own plexiglass. Are they willing to help us with stuff like that? I want us to be as careful as we feel that we need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And restaurants are still using them and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I know that county employees are now allowed to conduct county business with one another. Like if you go into the office, today as a county employee, you don't have to wear your mask if everybody is vaccinated, and they've basically really are pushing to have all county employees vaccinated. And so the hybrid meeting that I went to today, those of us staff who were on site, none of us were masked. We were all sitting in the same room together. So I don't know if those partitions will remain in place, but I think it's a reasonable question to ask.
Because we can get I don't suppose the public comes to your staff meeting.
No, that's true.
To get a random number, and I'd feel better if we could crack the doors open and stuff. There's just going to be, I think it's going to take a little while for people to feel comfortable. I think I'm in the 13 positive responses, but I was in the less enthusiastic 13.
And how do we know that people are vaccinated?
I promise I was. That's the
Well,
best we can.
Honor system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
but I
that
mean, we're not asking if public joins our meeting. Are we asking them if they're vaccinated?
no, we
I
can't do
don't
that.
think you're allowed.
You're not allowed.
Well,
So that's a
I think
violation of their privacy. So we would have everybody be masked. I think that would be one step, that we could easily require, and is consistent with other policies in the county. So in terms of interacting with the public, that we would all be masked. Whether we can get additional sort of partitions, whether they have extras that are sort of lying around that could easily be set up on a tabletop. We might be able to have some sort of partition between the public and us, something like that. We'll take a look at seeing. I don't know if the library or if the clerk's office or somebody like that, or the Board of Supervisors office would be a way to start asking some of those questions.
Mm-hmm. And then is 13, does that give us a little bit of a cushion over the quorum? I can't remember how many is quorum.
A quorum is 11.
11, okay. So more
And
than
there were a
two
couple,
people could not be sick or absent.
right. Yeah, it's a very narrow margin. And there were a couple of people who didn't answer, but I, it is a narrow margin. So it is possible that we simply would not be able to meet or conduct any kind of votes. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as we proceed. Sorry, go ahead. So somebody else.
I'm just looking at some of the the May meetings of the Board of Supervisors, and they're still distanced and hybrid. So they certainly haven't gotten even back as much as they were at some point last summer. So it is, I just want to be as safe as they are at a minimum.
Okay.
So that restriction was lifted as of May 28th. So I don't know what date the May meeting was.
The last one that's in the archive videos is the 18th.
Yeah.
So we can only see what there is. So we'll see what their meetings this month look like.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't know, I don't want to be too paranoid, but I also want to be careful.
No, it's understandable. I mean, it really is. I appreciate that there were 13 people who, even with who were like willing to venture an eye, even if it was a cautious one. I mean, and we're not 100% sure that that this is going to happen. We're just expecting that it's possible and thinking that we're going to have to make some plans, and we just needed to see whether we had a quorum that was willing to meet. I mean, if we didn't have a quorum that wasn't willing to meet, then we just simply would have to not meet. If in that, if we were being forced to do in-person, meetings, if that comes up.
So does that mean we all get fired if we don't?
No, I think, I mean, the county has been very, very understanding of people's concerns and about this all along. They've been very, very understanding about employees' concerns. So I think the general, sort of cultural, sense here is to try and bend over backwards to meet, to make accommodations to people's worries and concerns, and to maintain, to make health a priority. So, I think that we can make some inquiries about some kind of partitions. I mean, we generally don't have people. I wonder, Denise, do you think it would be possible to ask the public to only participate electronically? If that's the main issue, Anne?
That's interesting.
I can pose that to the clerk's office and to the county attorney's office. I expect that if we're told that we have to go back to in-person meetings, we'll be getting more guidance about it.
Yeah. So we just wanted you guys to sort of be psychologically prepared.
Yeah, Cheryl,
Mhm.
Steve Sherman here. Yeah, I just wanted to say something. Last week, I was in a classroom for many hours, 8 hours at the Board of Realtors, and it was a large room, but the way it was configured was that it was separated by about 5 or 6 feet per chair. So you had the distancing, and the Board of Realtors rule was that if you've been vaccinated twice, you didn't have to wear a mask. But if you've only been vaccinated once or hadn't been vaccinated, then you had to wear a mask. So if I was doing it like that, for our meetings, we could try to configure the tables a little differently and make them more like a classroom rather than a big circular square type of thing. And that's what they had. So you can have the distancing per row, and then you have another row right behind you, something like that. That would make it a little bit more distancing and probably a little bit safer also.
Right. Yeah. If we're only fitting 10 of us into that room instead of the typical, 20, 19 or 20 that we have, it will help to distance from one another. And we can, also at least at minimum, we can certainly keep the public at a certain a safe distance. And I don't know about opening windows. I don't know. Do those windows open, Chris?
The windows don't open, but the doors do. So we can open up a couple doors.
Okay. So, any other comments or questions about this?
I guess that just made me think about if there is the potential that we're going to be meeting in July, whenever they open up room reservations, I guess we should reserve it out of caution.
Already done.
I was going to say,
Already
Denise
done?
is
Okay.
already on top of that.
Awesome.
Would that surprise you? All right, let's move along here. Sorry, I just lost you guys. There we are. Okay, I'm going to just switch order just real quick. And Sue, I'm going to ask you to talk about Dunloring because naming policy is going to take a little bit of time.
I realize that, and this won't take much time at all because not much has been done yet. And the school board has, of course, approved converting Dunloring, which has been an administrative center, back to an elementary school. But nothing started yet, and they were waiting for school to return to open, things getting back to normal. So they're anxious to work with the ARB, and yeah, they didn't know about the history, so we've shared that with them. They're all excited. So whatever's done, I think we're, in on the ground floor of it. But I think it's great that we're sharing history with a school board member who had no idea about any of the school's history, as well as any other school's history, and he's just learning and exploring all this. And our supervisor was a school board member, and even she didn't know it. So it's kind of a fun process. I'll keep you updated when I know there is something happening.
So the idea here is that they would choose a new name for the building?
They might. I did ask that question. They're not sure. It has been Dunloring School before, but it might have a new name. We don't know. It's all up in the air right now. You have a proposal?
Well, there are very few buildings in the system left that are that are named for the actual geography around it.
That's true.
And they went through this craze in the 1970s and 80s, naming schools after creeks and streams, and it got pretty dull. But
yeah, but you can find offense with naming it for a creek.
I have no problems with that if it's Atkinson or something. But yeah, thank you. Now, I'll let you know as things go on, what happens. Thanks, David.
I think that's a really good process, Sue, because, you look at the school system has this great historian who's done all this work and created all these incredibly informative and fun videos. And, if the school board's not aware of that, anything we can do to put that in front of them is a really good thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very true.
Many people don't know, as I am, that the intermediates were all named after literary folks in the
Indeed.
1960s.
I went
Yeah.
to the
Yep. I went to Whittier.
We have
Robert
Langston
Frost.
Hughes. We have Langston Hughes in Reston.
Yep.
We have Carl Sandburg and then actually and Walt Whitman. And actually one of our high schools used to be a middle school, and it was Bryant after William Jennings Bryant. So so that's now a high school name.
There's Rachel Carson too.
I'm a Comer alum.
Robert Frost. We can name them all.
Washington
Well,
Irving.
Not to get off, I know we're getting off topic and I apologize, but I do have a privately printed autobiography of a guy named Hartley, who was hired by W.T. Woodson to stand up the entire middle school system. And he was hired in 1957. And they all opened on the same day, the Tuesday after Labor Day on 1960. And he single-handedly chose all of those names because he was an English major at the University of Virginia. And it was just, it's very interesting to learn how one person could simply pick all those names and no one even questioned it. It was just, that was the way it was done. And so in his autobiography, which is just a small vanity publisher, he has a few pages in there about how the middle schools were named. If anybody is interested, I'll.
That's fun. No, I love that.
Yeah, send that to us. That is fun. I think all those students at every school should learn the history of whoever the school is named after and read at least one poem by them. I bet that's not done.
That would be cool.
Sometimes it's in the yearbooks. They'll include some of that.
They're still not making them read it. I know.
With regard to this, we'll be working with the ARB or coordinating with the ARB. I don't know if Elise, if you wanted to add anything to Sue's report.
It's done, Lori.
Yeah, I'm having technical problems. My computer's really locked up. I don't have anything to add. I would comment that it was 2009 that we put on the inventory, and the school system must have very short memories.
Yes. It's those damn term limits. Oh, no, we don't have those yet.
Nope. I said system, not the elected officials.
Yeah, and actually, I was asking Denise for the report, and she's like, it's the one that we use as an example on our website. Forgot.
It was done by our staff person, Laura Turkowski, to make an example.
Yeah.
Put on the website. That's the reason it exists.
That's nice. That's good.
All right, and so any other questions or comments about this? At this point, as Sue said, we're just sort of starting out, and we're making these folks aware of the historic nature of the building, so that when they do any kind of redesign work, that it's done in a way that's mindful of its historic integrity and character. Any other comments, questions? Okay. To move on to naming, because you thought it was safe to go outside, Barbara Nave, and not have to deal with naming anymore, right? So we're going to make you chairman of this committee, right?
No.
Do it.
But you have so much experience with names and naming. So it turns out that the Board of Supervisors back in, I don't know, a couple of months ago, back in January, I believe, passed a resolution or a policy describing how, because they've just named things just on an ad hoc basis. So like, the Michael Fry, animal shelter, they've just been doing it without any kind of policy in place. So they decided after this past year, I guess, after 2020, that they needed to have a policy with regard to names and naming things after people. So now they have a policy that says that any board member may request that a county facility be named or renamed to honor someone or a group, and that and then they decided that what they really needed was to have that that request referred to us, to the History Commission, or some other group, as may be necessary for evaluation. And after the evaluation by the History Commission, then the nomination, I don't know, I guess the nomination to rename would be presented to the board overall, and the request would be considered by the board. Facilities should be named for any individual, family, or group who, in the judgment of the board, made significant contributions to the county through service as Fairfax County elected or appointed official or Fairfax County employee, or made significant contributions to the community, state, or nation. They ask that it not be named or renamed to honor individual holding current office or currently employed, and but for the county. And I think that's it. And also that it does not that's be consistent with Virginia law, and Virginia law specifies that you can't, that you have to stay within the bounds of civil discourse and good taste when naming something. So we have, at the same time that the Board of Supervisors passed this naming policy, Supervisor Harity of Springfield requested that they consider renaming a building in Clifton, the Clifton Town Hall, in honor of, remind me, this Wayne Nickum? Lynn? You're muted.
That is Wayne Nickum. That is correct. I was many pages away from you guys for a second. Sorry.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I still haven't gotten you that agenda. I apologize.
No, that's okay. What I do want to say about Wayne, just so you know a little bit, you may know that the entire town of Clifton, all 62 buildings, and I think there's a couple of extras on top of that got added in, are on the National Trust of Historic Preservation. So the whole town was included. It was an enormous project, and Wayne was the one that spearheaded that. He has been a loyal town neighbor for many, many years. I lived across the street from him for many years and was even amicable and available late at night to help fix plumbing leaks. So I think that absolutely means a building should be named after him. But anyway, he also was very good at cutting down trees, and his institutional knowledge of the town is just impeccable. So I'm honored and happy to hear that the town is looking at doing this. I'm just sort of sorry that all the bureaucracy got in the way, because this was apparently presented and we were supposed to be discussing this back in like January or February. So anyway, but that's just a little backstory. I think we're okay now. So
Lynn, is he still alive?
oh yes, he's not well. He has Parkinson's pretty severely. And it's, it's one of these situations where there was this robust hero now moving into a different chapter in his life. So I think this is actually kind of a very sweet initiative on the town's part.
Okay. So we have a general task here. So there are two things that we have to do. One is the immediate question of evaluating this specific nomination. The other is before we can do that, though, we really actually have to have a procedure in place to do this new task that we've been given. And so we need to decide how we're going to do this, and, you know, what type of committee, and then who should be on the committee, and then determine what procedures we should use in order to perform this evaluation. That's the word that the policy uses. And I think, you know, the answer to that last question, what procedure, we just leave up to the committee that we form. They can sort of figure out what the procedure is best, you know, and then inform the rest of us, make a recommendation to the rest of us, and then we can formally adopt it as one of our policies and put it in our policy manual.
Right.
So I kind of reached out to the executive committee. We didn't actually have a meeting about this. We just really didn't have the time to do that with FOIA you know, requirements for advertising. But so in terms of type of committee, you know, we could have a standing committee that only met when necessary. We could have a sort of subcommittee of something like the inventory committee or potentially marker committee, you know, so it could be handled by a subcommittee of an existing committee, or we could form an ad hoc committee whenever we needed it. And there was some preference expressed by the executive committee of to have a standing committee, but that only met when necessary. And then the questions about who should be on the committee, but whether those should be the commissioners from the district, whether they should be involved, you know, so like should it be Lynn and Jordan who are having the mains, you know, really participating in this a great deal, or should they not be involved, you know? Should we
For objectivity, right?
For objectivity, right? Exactly. And I mean, it's a sort of a strange request to evaluate these things. I mean, it makes sense in terms of the historical context. It's a little bit unusual to try and suggest that we're going, you know, that we would have some sort of perspective that the Board of Supervisors themselves don't have. I'm not sure.
The board has already identified what their parameters are for naming. I mean, they've pretty much already decided what's allowable.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That section B really is the procedure for, I mean, having that documented. What is the significant contribution? I mean, section B really tells you the information that's needed to make the decision.
Yeah. So I guess, you know, I guess it would be up to the committee to write that up and to say, these are the significant contributions. We've done our research into this person or group, and we find that these are significant contributions. So it's kind of similar in some ways to the inventory committee, what we do in terms of considering whether or not a building is historically significant. But anyway, so let's start with, you know, if there's any discussion in terms of any preferences with regard to what kind of committee it should be, whether we should just do this on an ad hoc basis as it comes up, or whether we should have a standing committee, or if it should be.
Make a motion, Cheryl, so we can talk.
I have to make a motion to do this?
No, well,
no.
No, Cheryl is in charge. She can make the motion.
She's presiding.
She's
Okay.
presiding. Yes,
I'm asking for
I'm
asking for discussion from the floor, and if there's somebody who wishes to make a motion about it, who has a strong feeling about how to do it, you know, please go ahead. But if you know,
I just want to stay within Robert's rules if this was a piece of something we should be there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not. So you can't have a discussion before a motion, is what you're saying?
Typically not.
but you're asking for ideas, right?
Right, exactly, yes.
So my idea is that we should have the commissioner from the district that this individual or group is from, because just like Lynn, you're going to know more about it if it's from your area of the county. That would be a thought to consider. And it depends how often this comes up. I would suggest an ad hoc, and when it comes up, you just say, all right, this is a Springfield issue, a Clifton issue, this is a Hunter Mill issue, and do it that way. Because we don't, you know, I don't know how often it will happen, but that way we can move quickly. And in the case of this gentleman, if he is ill, we don't want to spend months trying to get ourselves organized. So I'm trying to be practical about it. So that's my thought.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, Barbara. The only thing, and maybe this would be part of making it formal in that way, I'd want to see, for history purposes, kind of a template of how the committee worked, how it got to its final recommendation, just so later on, when this comes up again, we have some kind of a format or template to work from.
Yeah.
So
I've got a question.
Cheryl, this is Subi.
Sorry, go ahead, Subi. And then I know there's somebody else. I'll get to you next. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I would suggest, I just don't like the idea of 1,000 flowers bloom in terms of proliferation of committees.
Okay.
I think it's hard at the top level to sort of manage and oversee so much. My preference would be a subcommittee, and the advantage of it is that it decentralizes the management burden from you to the committee chairs. So all you have to do is task, and the committee chair can trigger the subcommittee. And in that sense, what somebody said, that the parameters and the blueprint is already established. I don't think we should have an ad hoc, because every time you have to create and codify a committee, and that's, in my view, a lot of high management burden.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking too, Subi. Yeah.
I would agree with that. And in fact, I'm going to make a motion that that we have the naming committee underneath the inventory committee.
Should we check with Elise about this, maybe? Oh, I'm sorry. I second.
I'll say, okay, somebody seconded it.
Yeah. Elise, what do you think about that?
I don't see a problem. I'm in the school of ad hoc, like Barbara, because nobody's going to remember they're on the committee. Nobody's going to remember where the template is. So I think we're just going to wind up doing it ad hoc. And, the policy's been in effect since September of last year, and this is the first time we've heard from them. So, but if you want to put it under the inventory committee, you can. I think we can deal with it.
Yeah, I just, since now we're being so called to be conscious about doing minutes and getting them turned in, at least there'll be some historical evidence of how we came to be. And I also like the idea of including in that the appropriate commissioners from the different geographic areas. I think that makes sense.
This is Esther. I would rather see a standalone committee, at least 2 people that are responsible in that committee, because you have to have someone to contact and get everything organized for presentation, no matter which district it's from. So the people from that district, yes, should work with whatever issue it is, but there should be a committee.
Esther, is it a committee, or do you think a subcommittee would suffice?
I think so.
I think it's important enough from the Board of Supervisors to make it a committee.
If it's a subcommittee, quote unquote, you're really just giving another function to the standing historic inventory.
Yeah, that function.
That's many people. You don't have these subcommittees. It's just another function. You're saying to the inventory committee, this is your assignment. But I think that they're dissimilar. I don't see.
But the only difference I see is that if it's a subcommittee, it doesn't have a continuous tasking, right? So a subcommittee stood up to address the issue when it arises. But in terms of the organizational body, you don't have to stand up a body every time something is tasked. I just think for Cheryl or the chair, it's a lot of management.
But in this organization, we have not had subcommittees as such. Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
Committees.
Yeah, but why would that stop it from not having any in the future?
Because each committee has their own task, and I don't see this as an inventory.
And our
I guess the reason why I thought it might fit well under inventory is that you're having a history submitted to this proposed subcommittee, and then you're evaluating it, much like we evaluate inventory nominations. You're saying, you know, how do you feel about are the contributions significant? You know, checking those boxes.
That's an interesting idea, Tammy. So you mean that, say, Lynn, for example, in this particular example case, she would write up, you know, what she thinks, you know, is significant about Mr. Nickham's contributions, and then would submit it to, let's say, we'll make you the subcommittee for the moment, submit it to you, and that you would review as a subcommittee.
Much like we do the nominations, where we have a criteria sheet and we're checking off boxes. Yes, this is significant, you know, moderately significant, something, you know, something along those lines, an evaluation sheet for all the subcommittee members, and then it gets approved or not approved based on that kind of biography or list of contributions.
That makes good sense, but it needs to be, to me, it needs to be put then with the inventory committee as an additional function. When it comes up, it goes there, everything is already set up and you do it. We just are not enough.
That's reasonable.
I like that, Barbara. I like that, because it's not something we have to do every month or even every 6 months, but at least in the bylaws, there's a reference to here's the task, the set of tasks. I like that. Does that work for you, Subi?
Yeah, it does. I absolutely, yeah.
And Sue, I saw your finger go up.
Well, I'm taking this in a different direction. By the time this person would come to the history committee, we're putting together the research as to what they have done. How likely is it that we're going to say to that board of supervisor, oh, that person's not worth it, that's not significant or something? I mean, let's get realistic. By the time it comes to us, they're asking for the research and the affirmation. Am I right? Are we going to say that person doesn't deserve it?
Okay, wait a minute. Let me put a voice to this, because this is my world. I have to say, when this was first brought to my attention, and actually somebody in passing told me this at the post office about 3 months ago, and I kind of thought it was a joke. You don't understand some of the characters in Clifton, but I'm obviously one. So anyway, was not something that I took all that seriously at the time. So then when this popped up, I thought, wow, Lynn, you should have been a little bit more respectful in your thinking. And I will also tell you, as a small town, there are probably folks that also believe someone or some buddies should have buildings named after them. The town is quite of a legacy lineage right now. We had hoped to do some oral histories about 5 or 6 years ago, and I'll tell you, we've lost about 5 or 6 people since then. And so I can see where there could be some more stuff bubbling up, not just from Clifton, but from Vienna and Herndon and places like that. I do not think this is going to be a standalone issue in the next 5 years or so. I think we will be readdressing this from time to time. Because quite frankly, Jim Chesley, who was mayor of Clifton, had a very loyal following, and it might have made sense to have had the town hall named after him. You know, so yeah, I think we need to be prepared. think we need to be prepared. Okay, Mary.
That would be well beyond, we wouldn't go to examining other candidates or anything like that. We would simply, I think what the Board of Supervisors is looking for is I think you're right, Sue. I think they're looking for an affirmation, but they aren't. I don't think that we, but it's a fact-based affirmation.
Sure. But it's good to know a bit of the story, because if there's pushback from the town or anywhere else, ultimately this is going to have our name on it.
Right.
It sounds
Right,
like,
exactly. So we have to do it. So go ahead, Mary.
Yeah.
Well, that was my question too. Is this a recommendation by us or just an affirmation? I think, we need to be clear that we would be reacting to the information and that the information is of merit, but they're going to make the decision.
That's exactly what I mean. We don't
We're
have
verifying,
decision.
we're basically verifying the facts.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So
this is historically correct. This gentleman did these things and it's recorded that he did. Therefore, our perspective is it's appropriate for you the board to consider it.
Yeah, so
Right.
we're fact checkers. We're fact checkers, I think.
But you're looking at
That
it
makes sense.
only in this moment in time, and Lynn's right. I mean, there may be other people in the community who several years later think, well, he wasn't, of such great value, and we shouldn't have done this, and we should have named it something else.
well, we can't. I mean, we can't make that. We should have named it something else. But we can again. You have that might be why I kind of like the idea of having this sort of, the folks who know the history, the folks from the district, sort of write it up and then submit it to this other more objective, kind of more systematic, evaluative, structure, subcommittee, who then kind of just checks off and makes sure that this is a reasonable argument in favor of this nomination. And we can't consider all the other possibilities. We only have to consider the one that's in front of us.
And then we are given the name, correct? We're given it. We say yes or no, and we give it back.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
I would expect if we got anything referred to us that they would require that it have some information for us to evaluate. But I guess there's no way
Isn't
we.
that something we can require? We
would.
can set it up so that we require them to give us information.
That's a good idea. That's an interesting.
And there might be 2 names, 3 names submitted for the same location. We can't tell how this is going to work.
Well, I think I mean, a board of supervisor has to make a it starts off with a request. A board member may request that a thing be named or renamed. So unless you have a situation, which I think would be pretty extraordinary, where you have multiple board members trying to rename the same facility, and maybe that's what they're anticipating. Maybe that's why we're involved. Maybe that is why we get involved, which would be really painful.
But let me understand.
But that's not what the policy says. Sorry. I'm sorry, Esther, I didn't mean to talk over you. Say again.
The recommendation can't come from the community?
No.
So the board of supervisor, the community may approach their supervisor, and then the supervisor, and I believe that may very well be what happened in this case.
The mayor, the current mayor, Bill Holloway, is the one who I think collectively did this. And I would say Bill was to some extent a protege of Wayne's.
Yeah,
so
I know there was, sorry, go ahead.
That's fine.
I know there was some reference in the discussion of the board matter about the Clifton Town Council having already supported this and is asking for it. I believe is does that sound right, Lynn?
That would be how that happens. The mayor would not unilaterally make a decision like this. It would he might have brought it to the town council for their discussion and verification, but I would not. It would not be in my memory bank that the mayor would have acted that directly on his own.
And then it went to Harity because Harity's the one that has this name, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
You know what else, you guys? I forget why I looked at this some months ago, but of course the Park Authority has its own policy on the naming of parks and facilities that was last approved in 2018, last reviewed in 2013. And it mimics some of this language about significant contribution or substantial contribution or.
Okay, so that's already existent, Anne? That's cool.
Yeah, that's Park Authority. It doesn't really tell them what to do, but it tells them what the criteria are. And so that's interesting. Have a look. It's in the big fat park manual.
I did look at that. We have a lot of Park Authority things that don't have a name, Audrey Moore Rec Center, but all the others could be named under something like this.
Yeah, it's really neat. Okay.
This actually would not pertain to Park Authority property because there's a disclaimer in there somewhere that it isn't the park, it doesn't affect, the Park Authority has its own procedures and they follow those. But yeah, there might be other facilities though, and who knows, because ultimately it's all the Board of Supervisors.
So where are we?
I was just about to
So do I amend my motion that it be the responsibility of the inventory committee rather than a subcommittee underneath the inventory committee?
Yes.
All right, so I amend my motion, my motion that this policy, handling of this policy is under the authority of the inventory committee.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Should it not
Sorry.
include?
Sorry.
Should it not include that the representatives from the district would be contacted?
No, that's up to the committee. The committee's gonna, that's a committee thing. You don't need to get that down in the weeds, I don't think, because that's up to the committee to do.
Yeah.
And and you can make a recommendation that, that the respective commissioners would weigh in or be ad hoc members of the committee. I think
it's just, that's just common sense. If the
correct.
Because the way the inventory works, committee now, when you're considering a property, it may not be in your district, but we consider. So anyway, it's up to Elise, but I think we're good just having it as an additional function to the inventory committee.
Yeah, and we could probably write out a little SOP for how to do this within the committee, so that we have something that we can refer back to, because this is probably going to be infrequent. All right. So let's restate that motion, Tammy.
That the naming policy be part of the responsibilities of the inventory committee.
Okay.
And I seconded it.
And Barbara Nave seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays? All right, then it passes unanimously. Huh, that was very efficient, guys. Thank you.
Okay, so but Cheryl, where are we now though with Mr. Nickham?
So now the inventory committee will have to meet and review.
Okay.
So we'll I think since this timeliness is an issue, do you mind, Elise, if we ask Lynn or Jordan? I don't know if Jordan's familiar with
Jordan passed it back to me, so it came to him at one point, so he passed it back to me. But
that Lynn submits a report to us.
I have no problems with that. I of course need to see something so I can understand what we're looking to do, what we're looking to name, and where and why.
Oh, it's the Clifton Town Hall.
The town of Clifton can't name their own town hall?
Apparently not.
Okay, so here's let me just kind of explain where it is. If you've ever been to Clifton, you know where the fire station is, right? It's the building right next to it. It's the community hall where, holiday events happen and, Easter egg hunts and, that kind of thing. It's well used by the town. It's well used by the town. And it is also the place where town council meetings are held. So it's quite a central piece of the town's presence, if you will. It's not a historic building. But
I'm just surprised that they can't name that the town of Clifton can't name their own buildings.
I am too.
Yeah, Vienna doesn't operate that way, and I don't think Herndon does.
Yeah,
it's always been a little different. Clifton's always been a little different.
Yeah, the Board of Supervisors actually had a discussion about it, Elise, as well. I think the same question came up, Ben. Like,
Does it have a name? Does it have a name now other than community, other than town hall?
I think it's called Clifton Community Hall.
Okay, so it doesn't
So
have.
It's benign. It's a benign name. Yes.
and I also checked to see whether or not it was historic. You know, if it had some sort of
no, not really,
like been that name forever and hundreds of years or anything like that. And it looks like it's cinder block. It's a relatively new building.
No one can take offense.
I wouldn't ever say that, Barbara. You never know.
Yeah, that is correct. That's
okay. So at least we'll have Lynn submit a written report to the inventory committee, and then the committee will meet and we will do the evaluation. We'll just have to do this, because they apparently have been waiting on us, although it wasn't communicated to us. So I don't know.
just okay, because I know the town and I know some of the festivities. There might be, and the thinking may very well have been for this to have been initiated back in January. Our big town gathering event is the 4th of July. Big deal. Parade around the town that lasts 7 minutes, so they go around like 3 times, and then we meet at the flagpole, and the lawnmowers that are all decorated are showing up and everything. It's just absolutely precious, very Americana. I'm wondering if they were hoping to have this name defined so that this 4th of July, especially post-COVID, that name could be unveiled. I don't know, but do you all have any thoughts on how maybe we could expedite this other than I'll write something up, at least I'll get it to you, and I don't know, give me some guidance on that.
Well, everybody on the inventory except for Jordan's present right now. And I think we all probably are going to be fine with it.
Yeah.
So just get something to me quickly. I'll poll the committee offline, not reply all.
Okay.
And we'll get back to you. We'll get back to Cheryl because it's technically the commission's responsibility.
Yeah, because it just would be so cool. It just would make me cry, but it was.
Then it would go directly to Harity, and it's up to him to get them to vote. Right?
Yeah, although Harity's usually there on the 4th of July too, so I think he would like to.
Well, that's good.
Back to the Board of Supervisors, there's no time for, even if you made a decision, for that to go back to the Board of Supervisors and approved in time.
But I thought it was us that is approving it, not the Board of
Supervisors. No. We are not approving it. We are evaluating it.
Okay.
So it goes back to them, and then
well, when do they next meet? When do they next meet?
Next week. Not even a week, on June 8th.
Next Tuesday, I think.
Okay. We'll far apart, and then it's up to them.
Yeah. There was not. I mean, I appreciate your thought, Lynn, in terms of that would be really sweet and wonderful in terms of the community experience. But that was not. There was no deadline, and the 4th was not mentioned in any of the communications that I am aware of.
Well, if I get something done this weekend, at least you and I we're going to work this out. Okay, sister.
Okay.
All righty.
We're good.
We're good. Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for figuring that out, and doing it in real time like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we can now proceed on to staff reports. Liz. We put Liz to sleep.
I'm here. Just a matter of getting to the mute button.
Yeah, I know.
My staff report, I think what I'll do, because it was submitted ahead of time, there wasn't anything particularly unusual in my staff report. I just wondered if anybody had any specific questions on what was in the report, since we are, providing it ahead of time.
Yeah, so just so everyone's aware, although I sent out a copy with Liz's and everybody, all the staff reports included in the agenda tonight, and I apologize again, I did that late, but their reports show up in the share file last week, a week ago, as they come in. So, and they are, staff is getting them in early. So you have an opportunity to look at all of these materials before I finally, get to assemble them. So, so anybody, so if there were any, I don't hope that some people had an opportunity to see it. Also, I sent it out at 6:30 tonight. So if you have any questions, please go ahead.
Wow.
We'll have more in-depth and probably exciting things for the July meeting. But this is more or less status quo.
Yeah, it isn't all that different than last month's report. So, all right, we'll move on to museum collections. Megan, thank you, Liz.
So same. I think ours is kind of light. If anyone had any questions about anything, I think probably the one thing to point out is that the LTE for the Heritage Conservation Branch, Diana, has left us. Her last day was last Friday. She accepted a job with Loudoun County. And so that's going to, I think, affect a couple of the things that are going on. So the next HSVC event, there was supposed to be one in June, but we're not having another one, I think, until July. And I think the hope is that they can push through her LTE position and hopefully have someone as quickly as possible. So that was really the only update for us.
Why are we losing people to Loudoun?
I can't answer that.
They're moving away, probably.
One thing I would say is it's likely that the job in Loudoun County is a full-time position with benefits, and the limited term positions with the Park Authority. I mean, you can buy into health insurance, but you don't get sick leave or annual leave, and you're only working 1,560 hours a year, which is either 9 months or 30 hours a week. So I think it's an opportunity for people to go on to full-time employment with benefits. At least that's been the case, with us when we lose our limited term employees. Usually it's because they've gotten a full-time position, or in some cases they're going back to graduate school.
Right. Thank you, Liz.
So, so did you wrote a blog about a McCoy flower pot?
Yes. that was our blog of the month last month, and sometimes it was highlighted in the e-news. Sometimes they share it on Facebook, sometimes they don't. It just depends on their schedule. So I don't think that one was, but you can always go. Us and archaeology alternate months each month to share an artifact. So it was my month this month. So we try to pick something timely, but it really is a cute little yellow, butter yellow McCoy flower pot.
and it's
Can we see it?
Do
you have a picture?
Blog.
I don't have a picture, but I can send it. It's the link should be available. But we have our there's a website on the Fairfax County Park 30 webpage, and like I said, once a month we highlight different artifacts.
Right, it's fun.
So
it's good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, no, Barbara checks it out.
Yes, I do.
I'll try to remember.
There's some pretty interesting stuff in there, and we've been doing it for a couple of years. So if you go back, there's quite a few. We try to do different sites and different archaeological locations and change it up for the seasons. So
I was just wondering if it was an extraordinary flower pot somehow.
It's from our Leahy collections. There it is.
How's that? Oh, shoot.
Where was it?
It's from the Leahy collections, which is in our resident curator property. So the
yes, I know.
Yeah.
Let me see. It's such an awesome property. Leahy Lost Valley, right?
Leahy Lost Valley, yep.
Oh, I
We have
love it.
lots. We have lots of amazing antiques from Leahy.
When it was bequeathed to the Park Authority, it was full. And only 4 of us knew about it for multiple years. And then the collections went and we inventoried all of it. Some of it was incredible, some of it wasn't, but there are lots of interesting objects, some of which have been accessioned, right, Megan, and some not, but most, those that are of value have been. So it's all kinds of neat things, chalkware and.
Yeah, and there's a chalkware on the Artifacts blog post. So there's quite a few things from Leahy because it's such a varied collection, as Barbara pointed out. They were very into antiquing, and so they were highbrow and lowbrow. So there's a really good mix of different kinds of.
And they were collecting in the 1930s in the Depression era, and so
they were both artists, and her own kiln or his kiln was on the property. Yeah.
Yeah, Carlotta's story is fascinating. It's a fantastic property with a great history.
Yes,
awesome.
If I win the lottery, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to take over.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I was curious. And I'll try and send the link around to everybody if anybody else wants to look that up. All right. Denise, you're up. Oh, wait. Sorry, Chris, I skipped you. I didn't mean to do that.
It's okay.
Chris, I didn't see your report. I'm sorry.
Yeah, unlike the rest of the staff, our report didn't make it into the share file link for some reason, which I realized was a devastating blow for everyone, myself included. Actually, I didn't even have the report. I had to email Denise before this meeting, just asking her for a copy of it. So now I have a copy of it. So I'll read it really quickly. The big news is the Fairfax County Public Library System is fully opening on Saturday, June 6th. All of the social distancing measures are going by the wayside. The 30-minute time limit is no more. You could come to the library and spend the whole day there if you'd like. There's going to be new hours for regional branches. We'll be open Monday through Wednesday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., and then Thursday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So for those of you who might have advocated a couple years ago, there was a library survey that went out to the citizens of the county asking them what they wanted, what they disliked, and all that. And everybody wanted longer Sunday hours. So all of us librarians have adjusted our schedules to work Sunday days for you. So we will be open 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. in the Virginia room if you want to spend all day Sunday with us. So we'll be there.
Try to contain your excitement, Chris.
They probably all have kids who have a report due on Monday.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Sundays are already pretty busy from 1 to 4. So I imagine it'll be somewhat busy. I don't know who's going to come to the library Sunday morning at 10 a.m., but we will find out. You can also start to reserve meeting rooms if you'd like, beginning on Saturday. And Denise has already reserved rooms A and B for the History Commission. So that is all set through the rest of the year. A couple other things. Laura is continuing to work with the African American and Beginner Genealogy Special Interest Groups of the Fairfax Genealogical Society. At the request of the library director, Suzanne LaPierre, and myself, we are researching and writing a report concerning the history of the desegregation of public libraries in Northern Virginia. So not just Fairfax County, but Loudoun, Prince William, Alexandria, Arlington, and a few others. And we'll be making a presentation before the Library Board of Trustees in September. Some new collection additions. Susan Hellman, who I'm sure all of you remember, donated some photographs and documents relating to Sherwood Farm and her family. So that will be added to the already existing collection we have on that. And the Holmes Run Acre Civic Association, they donated their community archives to the Virginia Room, consisting of records, newsletters, scrapbooks, photographs, and more. It's a nice collection. It spans the years 1950 to 2011, and we're working on processing that and getting that out there. It's a pretty cool collection. And that's about it.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris.
Will we be able to see the presentation on the desegregation of libraries? That sounds really interesting.
I believe so, because all Library Board of Trustees meetings are public. So if you really want to in September, you can watch it, or you can always watch the recording.
Yeah, cool.
Give us a heads up so we can save the date, sort of thing.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, and now I'm sorry, Denise. Let's see what's going on at planning and development.
coming on. There we go. So my apologies. Laura Wickstead was the first to turn in her staff report. She got it in before anybody else, and somehow I didn't get it into the shared file. So again, my apologies. I'll send it out after the meeting, so you all will have it in written form. Okay, so again, you have my staff report. Pretty much status quo for the HODs. They're moving forward. As I announced last meeting, Nicole Brannon has left us, so Laura will be assuming Nicole's lead on the Homes Run Acres HOD. But all the current dates are in my report. Let's see, let me just catch you up on a couple of things that I was asked to specifically call out the Mclean CBC planning study. There was 3 hours of public testimony it was like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning when it ended, but they deferred. So the Planning Commission deferred decision until June 9th, and the public record is open for comments still until June 9th. And then the Board of Supervisors public hearing has been scheduled for June 22nd. So that's a bit of information that you all wanted to know. And another addition to my report that you don't have is that we are planning a historic courthouse tour. Both the Architectural Review Board and the History Commission are going to be invited to tour the courthouse this summer to learn about the history, the resources that are available at the courthouse, and to discuss some of the pressing repair and maintenance issues that the building has. So I'll give you dates once I know them, but pencil that in. Now that we're free to move about, we're going to try to, get you all there to see the courthouse and talk with Heather Bollinger. I also wanted to highlight, personally, I wanted to highlight the 2 development reviews that staff is currently working on. One is this, it's an interjurisdictional review. The application has not actually come into Fairfax County. The CIT building, which is that fabulous building that rose out of nowhere near Dulles and has been a landmark for a very long time. They are proposing in Loudoun County, they're proposing to demolish it. The building actually straddles the county line. About a quarter of the building is in Loudoun and the rest of it is in Fairfax. So the Fairfax County has comprehensive plan language in our plan that says that the building should be adaptively reused if possible. So that is what we are putting forward to Loudoun, but on a to back that up, it's not just about the CIT building, it's the whole development really needs to be coordinated with Fairfax County. So that's what our position is, and that's what staff is proposing to the developer and to the Loudoun County Planning Department. So that was the CIT building. And then this second development review is Aubrey Place Court. It came in for a proffer condition amendment, and the proffer that they wanted to amend said preserve the house. And staff doesn't agree that they should be able to amend that proffer. And we're still advocating for the preservation of the house. So I just wanted to show you the pictures of the house. It's in a lovely location. You can see it from the W&OD trail. It is owned by a no longer, but it was owned and built by a longtime family in Vienna, one of our founding families. Goes back, not the house, but the family goes back to yeah, a long time. And I wanted to thank Commissioner Stunts for her help with this, and Chris Barbacheks and Heather Bollingers, because we really had to pull in about a week. We had to write a history of this house, but we did it. We're still wrestling with them though. So
Elise, she practically wrote a whole nomination. We can just turn it into a nomination quick.
So we are asking for that though. We will be asking for an inventory nomination to be produced for this property and for it to be placed on the inventory. We'll see how it goes. I don't know, but I may be calling again on you as the History Commission if you would care to advocate if we need it. We need help. So
absolutely.
And then finally, this is really exciting news. Just last week, we got notice that we were awarded, DHR awarded us $9,650 to match the county's offer of $20,500 for the African American Context Study and Architectural Survey. So the History Commission played a part in that. The Architectural Review Board played a part in that. DPD chipped in a little money, and our collective efforts are going to get us a survey of 50 properties that are associated with African American history in Fairfax County. So thank you so much.
That's wonderful.
Thank you, Denise, for initiating it.
Absolutely.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Lots of help. A lot of History Commission members helped me pull that scope of work together and get that grant out the door. So that was another one that had to be turned around pretty quickly, but lots of help. So thank you very much. And then of course we have ongoing Reston. That's now being, the Reston survey is now being incorporated into the comprehensive plan with the task force for the master plan replanning. Gum Springs is moving forward, and the Pride of Fairfax, you all should have a draft to review in the next week or so. And that's it. Happy to entertain questions.
I will say it's really cool that there are pictures with Denise's report.
Wow.
And so her report is, Elliot actually popped the link into the chat for the share file, and her report is called Staff Report. If you want to take a look at it. Plus, it was in, as I said, these are embedded in the agenda I sent out by email. But yeah, so that's the CIT building. I don't know if you can get a sense of the shape, and very cool.
Yeah.
And that's the little house. That's the little
It's so cute.
See.
So cute.
There we go.
The CIT building was what we used to call the upside down triangle long before Reston Wheelie Station with its big fancy modern buildings. So CIT is a precursor to that. It's a fascinating structure. I don't know who's in it. Who's in it, Denise? Anybody?
It was state owned up until about a year ago, but I don't know who. Well, I don't know who's. I know who owns it, but I don't know who is occupying it.
It was designed by Warden Hall. You might recognize that name, and Denise knows I'm crazy about them. They were one of the longest Fairfax County architectural firms practicing for over 50 years here. And Mr. Ward passed away last year, and I went to his house and got a lot of items from the Virginia room. And that was the building that he was most proud of out of his whole 50-year career, was the CIT building, which is still kind of new for people who don't appreciate that particular architecture, because it was completed in 1990. But it is a really cool building, and we have all the drawings for it. If it ever does get torn down, it can't be rebuilt because we've got 100+ drawings of it. So
good.
Chris, is that the same architectural firm that did the bank that you wrote your? That's what I thought.
It is indeed, yes.
Yeah, I mean, to have the building be wider at the top than the bottom is it's really kind of difficult to do, you know, without looking clunky and like it's going to fall over. And this one doesn't. It's very light and ethereal. It works well.
Yes,
It's very elegant. Out in the farm fields of Ohio is a giant building in the shape of a Longaberger basket because it's the headquarters of Longaberger Basket. And I don't know if there's a history committee back there trying to save it or not, but it's a little clunky.
I love all those road marks and what you're talking about, you know, the baskets and things like that. And wherever I go, any road trip, that's one of the things I have to look for, the big shoe, the old diner that, you know, has something on top of it that's totally nothing we would ever have right now, you know, and make. But yeah, this is a really cool building. And this whole modernist architecture thing, people here think it's so strange, but it's really common in other parts of the world. So, you know, we should try to save it.
Castroville, California has a giant artichoke in the center of its town. Just FYI.
I've seen that. I've been to the Garlic Festival in California. I've been to all of those food-related ones.
Okay, so I'm not sure how I can segue from giant artichokes, but
try.
We're going to move on to committee reports. I want to thank staff for submitting their reports. I appreciate that, you know, because of our FOIA requirements, you meet those FOIA requirements. You get those in early, and it is, you know, we do thank you for doing that. And I also want to thank all the committee members who committee chairs who have also submitted reports in advance. Thank you. Lynn, let's start with the history conference and awards reports.
Okay, so I have a rockin' report. We are so excited. Some things happened just as we were beginning to gather this evening behind the scenes. In the nick of time, as we're getting ready to meet in person, we had a little nudge from Congressman Jerry Connolly after my oral history meeting with him a few Mondays ago. And as he was leaving, because he loves our conference, he said, "Now you are going to do the conference this year in person." And I said, "Well, actually, we've not been thinking of that." "Oh, Lynn, you have to do it." Anyway, I won't go into any more detail there, but it felt like there was kind of some external expectation that we begin to meet our audience at least halfway. So at our last committee meeting, that was one of the topics that we discussed. And so we are exploring the opportunity to do that. I put together a long summary Friday night that had opportunities for us to do some research to bring to you all this evening. And one of the things, of course, we discussed at our meeting last week was the costing of all of this. And Sherwood has always been a little on the pricey side. Well, do we have a surprise for you? Since we have the esteemed mayor of Fairfax on our committee, he helped make sure that we will be able to use the Sherwood Community Center on November 6th this year at the outstanding, amazingly low price of zero, nothing, zippo. Yay! Thank you, David. So that's just really, really appreciated because it would be wonderful to be back there. A lot of my history friends have said to me, you're gonna go back to Sherwood, aren't you? You're gonna have more of that great food. That's, of course, something that we're remembered for. So one of our committee members is checking back with Jason's to see what we can begin to take a look at budgeting for. I know that Channel 16 will be thrilled. They would rather do an on-site live stream than for us to do it from Channel 16. I personally don't have a preference one way or the other, although I do like to be around people. We're going to have Liz and I need to work together on how we're going to do logistics, because as you all know, that the $25 and the paying for food and all that kind of stuff is always kind of a challenge behind the scenes, but we're going to make that happen. I would imagine, given our constituency, that we would not get a typical 100% turnout because some of our constituency may still be in the mode of wanting to stay home or at least stay masked and might not feel comfortable eating, in a gathered place. What else do I have in my notes here? Just to kind of jump ahead to the agenda, we presented an agenda to you last month. Oh, can I share that? Denise, can I share? Maybe not. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Well,
Here, hang on for just a second. I'm sorry, Lynn.
okay. It's in your little packet, actually,
in the share file.
Yeah, in the share file. But we will be talking about the African American inventory work that good committee has been working so hard on so far this year. Oh, I can share right now. Oh my goodness, I have so much stuff up on my computer right now. I don't even know what's here. Wow.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, Lynn, if you had wanted that as part of your committee, your general report, or whether that was just to the
Probably
committee.
not.
So
All I
didn't-
wanted to do was show you guys. Did you go and see what our save the date looks like? It's pretty awesome. That's what I wanted to show. Let's see if there's a way I can try to figure that out. Man, oh man, oh man. I should have it up on my computer. Give me just 2 seconds here. There's the agenda. Oh man. Well, give me 2 seconds. I thought I had this all set up. Esther, you want to jump in with anything else that we might need to talk about here? I'm just going to pull up the document directly.
Let's see. Well, we're working on the agenda, getting speakers confirmed and content together. So we're not ready to present that yet.
There we go. All right, let me see if I can pull this up now. I've got it up on my screen. Just have to go back here. All right, now let's see if I can share. We all worked very hard on this last week. There. Can you see that?
Yes.
Can you all see that?
Yes.
All right, so the committee's seen this and they've seen this is a new revised version. This little artifact, this otter, was quite a topic of discussion. And we've divided the pictures into Native American, obviously, and our African American freed and enslaved people realities. So we're still fine tuning this, guys, but I wanted you to see where we are with all this. And since it looks like we may be going for, not maybe, we will, it does look like we can do it now, do a on-site conference. This will need to be abridged and include a registration form as Liz and you all are used to. All right, so I wanted you to all see that. I'm going to stop sharing. We're back home now. I met with Naomi Zebin this past week, who passed on a lot of wonderful African-American videos that she's shared and a whole book of information. In our team conversation, not this past time, but the time before, we had a discussion of whether or not to have a historic reenactor, and we have set that idea aside and have a woman named Lanille Naylor, I know some of you already know who she is, who is related to many, many people out of the Clifton geographic area. So she will likely help us as we are moving into that topic in the afternoon, possibly even wrapping up with her. So we're still working out some of those logistical realities. What else? Barbara sent on to me the actual conference budget. Thank you so much for that, Barbara, because I never really had that condensed in my files. So we will work from that from a budget perspective, and we are going to meet again on the 23rd. Yep, the 23rd of June. And right now that'll still be WebEx, right, Denise? That'll still be WebEx, yeah. Okay.
Well, it can be if you want it to be, but let's see, 23rd. No, you're right. June 30th is the end. Yeah,
That's
sorry.
kind of what I thought. We're just under the wire there.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we've got an opportunity to take a look at that old budget from 2019, since there really was not much of a budget from 2020, and rework it a little bit. And Esther will be checking on food costs and so forth for us. So that's where we are with the conference. I feel good about it. We've got some excellent folks committed to be able to present. So that's all very, very, very good. So I think this committee should be very proud of what it's done so far this year. Let me move on very quickly to awards. I was so hoping that we could do a newspaper article about the Jack L. Hiller Media Award. And I've worked very hard on this. I've tried to contact not just the Connection newspaper, but where that wonderful photograph that Jack had done of Martin Luther King Jr. It's located at the Portrait Gallery, I understand. I've tried to contact, nobody's been back in touch yet. COVID locked down a lot of things that I think are just slowly kind of blossoming again. But I thought the Connection for sure would want to highlight that. And I've talked to one of their reporters and she seems a little hesitant because it's not an event. Now they might want to cover the conference, but the actual award itself yet is not an event. She also did share that the newspaper is not doing as strongly financially as they have in prior years. So she asked if we would consider taking an ad out, and that would have to be something that the committee would discuss and bring back to you all. So do know the awards committee has extended the deadline till the 1st of August. That's now on the website. And Steve, Sherman, and Elise, anything else I need to add here? That's it? Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. You have center stage back.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And the revised save the date looks lovely.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you, David, for the gift of the Sherwood. Well, the really low rate on the Sherwood Center there. That's awesome.
Very low rate.
All right. Phyllis and Mary for African American History Initiative. There actually was a written report submitted for that. And you can
we
just
submitted
give us
our report.
Hmm?
Okay, we submitted the report, and there are two things that I want to correct on there. I thought I had caught them before we sent it out. Before I sent it out, instead of saying not attending, that should be excused. And then in the bottom, in section 2, where we talked about what sort of activities we were suggesting to the History Commission, we mentioned schools and African Americans in Fairfax County at some point went to the Manassas Industrial School from Jenny Dean. So the Jenny Dean name will be corrected, and I'll send that back out tomorrow.
Okay.
We talked about, we covered the template and what we would be using, and the rest of it is in our report.
All right. Yeah, and I did post that report on ShareFile, so that is also available in those in that location for folks, as well as it's in the agenda, which I think I sent out.
And the next meeting is June 8th at 2:30.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions for Phyllis? Anything to add, Mary?
No, I'm good.
All right. Gretchen, semi-quincentennial.
So neither the state commission nor the Fairfax County work group met in the last 4 weeks, so we have nothing to report.
Okay, that makes it easy.
Yes, good stuff next month, I promise.
All right, sounds good. Elise, inventory, budget, and annual report.
I have nothing to report on any of those three fronts.
Okay. Thank you. Markers, Mary.
The market committee is working on the placement of Pleasant Grove church marker. The ownership of the parcel is still unclear. We're trying to see if we can get it on PDOT property and what all would be involved with that. So we're still working on that. Commissioner Kovac Schumann and I met with Supervisor Palachuk's office and many other attendees about the history marker contest for Fairfax County Public School students. The next step will be that we'll be dividing into smaller groups to take on the tasks that are involved to get this in fruition. And the plans are that the contest will be introduced in January 2022. James Lee Elementary School and Carrollton markers have been proofed and are in the works, and hopefully be expected soon to arrive here.
All right, thank you. And you want to also do the cemetery preservation committee?
Sure. We meet by Zoom, but we've been busy with cleanups and answering preservation inquiries from community residents. We've got a couple of future Eagle Scout projects in the works at cemeteries, and also several DAR chapters are working on cemetery preservation. We have unofficially adopted the Sons and Daughters of Liberty Cemetery at the Pine Ridge Park. So we were out there and did a cleanup recently. We also, on that same weekend, placed flags at that cemetery, also Germantown, and the Merrifield Cemetery, and the War Memorial at the Fairfax Courthouse. We did that the weekend before Memorial Day. And there is a DAR chapter member who has adopted the Wakefield Chapel Cemetery, and she contacted that there were some trees down after one of those wind storms. So the Park Authority was alerted and quickly removed them. I just visited the cemetery to make sure that there were no evidence of damage to any of the markers, and I'm pleased to say that nothing happened to the gravestones.
Awesome. All right. Any questions for Mary? Okay, and thank you also, Mary, for submitting that in advance. Ethnic and oral history, Esther.
Yes, hello everybody. We are in a resting point now in that we've done our 3 interviews that we could pull off within the schedule of Channel 16. They are now editing and doing whatever they do. We will start our next group of interviews, oral history interviews, at the end of July. I was not given a date or a specific, but that's better than what we had before. Committee, I'd like to meet on the 17th. WebEx. If there's any objection to that, please email me tonight or tomorrow before I make the official request to Denise.
7:30?
7 o'clock.
Oh.
17th at 7 o'clock. WebEx is what I'm proposing. So I will continue to send out letters to invite people to do the interviews as we've done in the past. We have a list. So I'll just go down the list and send those letters out to the next group. And the goal is to do 4 interviews per session, per quarter, as Channel 16 has their quarters. So I'll be calling on some of you in your districts to see if you would like to do the interviews, or should someone else who is volunteering do it. That's it.
That's great. Thank you. All right.
Mr.
Yes,
Who all did the in interviews this month? Maybe folks would like to know who else interviewed.
I can send that list out.
Oh, the
I don't
ones
have it
were just
before me.
done. Oh, okay. All right. I thought the ones already complete. Okay.
Okay. It's nice to be making some progress on this. It's really exciting.
Yes.
Yes,
Bob.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. Bob, Resident Curator Program.
Yeah, that should do the trick. You know, it's printed in the agenda, so do I really need to read it?
You do not have to read it. You can just, if there are any highlights you want to point out or any comments you want to make, or just sort of, because
No,
we
I
do.
think things are taking longer with the curator program because of COVID, and I'm hopeful we'll get back to some normalcy coming soon.
Yeah, I guess it was mostly about the videos, right? That I think more of those have been released.
Yes. Yes.
So if folks are interested in seeing, I think I haven't seen it, one myself, but I've heard that they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And bylaws. I know we have some things to discuss there.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. I'd like to start off by saying thank you very much to my committee, the Bylaws Committee, for all of your hard work and the many hours that we spent revising this and editing the bylaws. We're at the point now that it is on the share file. That was one of the questions that was, I think that you had, Cheryl. But it is on the share file, and it's available to be reviewed. The edited version was agreed to on the 29th of April, and it was subsequently placed on the share file and is available for all the commissioners to see. One of the questions was if the commission will accept receiving the revised version electronically, or does it want to have it delivered by hard copy? That's a question. So that would be the question right now.
So how did that work? The lawyers told us that if there was no objection,
That's
and
right.
we could, because of the emergency COVID stuff, we could all agree to get it electronically, so nobody has to go put it in the mail. So
Right, our bylaws currently call for it to be mailed, and that's why you're being asked this question.
So it's okay by me.
Yeah, and we can arrange. We can email it out to everybody in addition to having it in that share file, because I don't know how long it will stay in share file, but we will make sure everybody gets an emailed copy. So the question is whether you feel that that's adequate, or whether you really, if anybody feels that they really must have it in hard copy form mailed to their home address.
So, are you asking?
No, I was just repeating your question, actually, Anne, just to make sure that, see if there was anybody who was thinking about it and was starting deciding to pipe up or not.
You
I'll
said-
make a motion.
Oh,
I'll make, unless somebody had, did you have something, what did you want to say, Barbara?
I was just gonna say, if you email it, people can print them out themselves if they want them.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, that's the easy. If you just send it as an email, Cheryl. It.
Okay, I'm gonna make, I also want to say something that we need to have a red line that compares the current approved bylaws to the new draft. If somebody's gonna have to create by running the document, the old final document against the new final document. That's part of the Roberts bylaw process. You have to show people what the change is.
Thank you. I was going to bring that up too, because I've had to do that, or somehow to highlight those changes. Those of us who haven't really looked at the bylaws don't know what the changes might be.
Yeah.
And I think nobody's thought of doing it because the document's been through so many iterations that we definitely need a fresh comparison. So my motion is that the proposed bylaw, proposed amended bylaws be forwarded to the History Commission via email, and that the submission include a red line version showing the differences between the existing bylaws and the proposed bylaws.
I'll second it.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead, Ann.
So, the way I vaguely remember the attorney's comment is that it had to be 100% of us for this, for the non-USPS thing. So that part of the motion, you know, it would need to be unanimous plus Jordan, unless I'm just remembering that email from the lawyer wrong. But he made me, you know, I feel like he said, if anyone disagrees with this, then you need to know that and act accordingly. But I mean, I don't, Denise, you probably read it better than I did.
I was going to go back and look up the email right now. I don't remember it being that specific. I think it was broadly, unless there are objections. But I'm going to go back and look at the language.
In fact, Elise shook her head pretty vehemently, so she doesn't remember it that way either.
And if need be, we could poll Jordan tomorrow and ask him if he needs it mailed to him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was just thinking that. Okay.
So can we go ahead and vote on it?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know why I was hesitating. I felt like there was somebody else going to say something. I guess I was waiting for you to say something, at least. I don't know why. But so yeah, if there's no any further discussion. All right. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to, why don't you restate it at least?
That the proposed amended bylaws be distributed to the History Commission via email. And the distribution will include a red line version that compares the current approved bylaws to the proposed amended bylaws.
Thank you for doing that. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any objections or abstentions? All right. Hearing none, that passes unanimously, and we will get that out. I guess, Elise, and I mean, I have some vague recollection that Word can do this for you automatically. So I can play with that if you want, or if somebody else, and I don't know if you know how to do that, to get that red line comparison document out.
I have done it. If you need me to do it, I will. But I need an official file of the old. I don't think I have an electronic file of the old bylaws.
Yeah. Okay.
Current bylaws. So we can work this out behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly. Sounds good. All right. Okay. Thank you. Anything else, Ann?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anne. All right. Advocacy and anything to report there?
Oh, advocacy, is that me?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Let's have a meeting this month. I have been playing with some dates. And we're going to have a meeting before we can have to meet in person. I will get with the committee and I'll let everyone know in case, because we haven't had a meeting in a long time. I'm not, we have a basic membership, but we'll invite everybody.
All right. Sounds great. Awesome.
Anne, just FYI, and Denise, I should probably be on that advocacy committee. I kind of thought I was, but maybe I fell off. I don't know. But you can put me back on there. I love being an advocate for the commission.
It's been a while. Okay.
It has been a while.
All right. Elise, we have ARB, Elise has submitted several months worth of summaries of the your ARB activities. You want to summarize that for us?
Just a second. I'm putting it on my screen, so I'm not really looking at you guys. The multi-month one, it's all fairly simple. If you have any questions, ask me about them. And at the May meeting, there was one action item, and I'd like to speak to it because it's kind of interesting. It's in the Roby's Mill Historic Overlay District, which is Roby's Mill is privately owned. It's off Pope's Head. It's on Pope's Head Road. And the developer very cleverly set up and most of this development is outside this historic district. So the developer very cleverly set up his subdivision so that only one property is in the historic overlay district. So we approved that. We also did in the past, we approved their road and their landscaping too. So that was something that has happened in the past. And the other thing I'd like to talk about, just in case Liz's questions, the workshop item was for the new building for the archaeology and museum collections. And it's a big boxy building, very angular, and it's going to be rebuilt. It's going to have a modest addition tucked onto the front. The board was fine with the whole concept, but they added some decorative brickwork that, in our opinion, too closely mimicked the real brickwork of the workhouse that they're right next door to. So we asked them to do some work on their facade. It was a workshop item, so it wasn't approval. So we asked them to do some work on their facade before they come back. And we also had a sort of nuts and bolts person from briefing from one of the UPD code people on how the historic overlay district zoning ordinance will proceed. And that's everything.
All right. Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a fairly long report for folks to look at, and hopefully if I was paying attention to what I was doing, I got, these written reports are on ShareFile as well. If they're not, I'll make sure that they are. Plus, they also should be in that agenda that I sent out. So thank you. Thank you.
It is in the PDF file.
Yeah.
That you sent out.
Oh, good. Thank you. I was, when I looked back at it just before, I kind of panicked. I thought maybe I just sent it to Denise.
So you turned a little off the top of the first one, and that may be what threw you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right. David. What's going on?
The city of Fairfax is continuing its work on connecting Fairfax City for all. And on May 20, we had a program that focused on what initiatives our neighbors, meaning close-in jurisdictions, are doing. And so we had a panel of 3 people, Carla Bruce, who is the Chief Equity Officer for Fairfax County, and Wendy Manuel Scott, who is the George Mason University's Anti-Racism Inclusive Excellence Task Force, and our own Gretchen Bulova, who spoke about the Alexandria Remembrance Project. And I just want to tell all my colleagues what a powerful presentation Gretchen gave on May 20. It has been archived, and it is really, I'm seriously really moving and very, very well done. Tomorrow night, continuing this initiative, the same program, our next monthly meeting is tomorrow night, and it's researching and making decisions about Confederate symbols and street names. So there's going to be a panel discussion. Again, one of our own, Denise Dressel, is going to be representing Fairfax County, plus 2 individuals from Montgomery County, Tanya Stern and Rebecca Ballo. So where is all of this going for the city of Fairfax? We had a meeting this week, and we are hoping that, and our plan is that by the middle of September, this stakeholders advisory group will bring recommendations before the city council. And over the summer, we're going to work through some processes as to how we might address changing our city seal, 2, changing some of our historic markers in the city, to change the narrative of that, and 3, and most difficult, is the possibility of changing the names of some of our streets in the city. So that's my report for that initiative. I did want to also say that we have hired an outstanding architectural historian, and we have a engineering firm as well to help guide us on the restoration of Old Town Hall. The initial restoration of the front of the building is probably going to be in the $600,000 range. When this all comes together, I might, if you are interested, present maybe a 5-minute presentation to the commission, including a video that was taken at 3:45 in the morning with the column falling over into the street. It's kind of dramatic. There is a possibility, but I don't want to put too much stock in this, but we may be able to get some additional funding, anywhere from $1 to $2 million for a complete and total restoration of the building. But that, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself on this. But so we've got, those are the 2 big initiatives in the area of history for the city right now. And we are also pleased to be able to welcome the History Commission on November 6th, if that is the direction that we are going, to be able to do that gratis. And that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you. That sounds great. And the presentation sounds really interesting. And we actually do those at the beginning of the meeting, so you wouldn't have to wait till the very end the way you so patiently do. Awesome. All right. And in terms of website, I am following up on the.
I'm sorry,
Jim?
can I interrupt for just a moment?
Go
I
ahead,
just
sure.
wanted to add that I will be presenting tomorrow, but along with myself will be Barbara Nath and Phyllis Walker Ford for Fairfax City. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that they would be with me tomorrow.
Well, thank you, Denise. The summary that was given to me did not have their names down, and I apologize to them for omitting the reference to that. And this is also available to observe online. It's going to be virtual. And again, as I said, all of these sessions are archived so people can watch them at a later date at their convenience.
All right. Thank you. Okay. I don't really have anything to report in terms of website. You know, I am looking into something that was raised by the African American History Initiative, and I'll report on that when that's done. And so we are ready for announcements. Does anybody raise their hand or shout out? Lynn.
All right, this has been a long time coming because y'all have walked on this journey with us. Those valiant, primarily women that helped make sure that the Turning Point Suffragist Memorial came into being, enjoyed its formal dedication on the 16th of May. COVID restrictions were still kind of in place, so it wasn't as quite a large crowd as it might have been. There were not a lot of people invited either. But I have to tell you, Mrs. Robert Walker had a great time, and she was so busy talking and taking pictures, she never got a cookie that said TPSM on the top of it. So anyway, it was a nice way. And that property will now, in just a week or two, be taken over by Nova Parks. They will be the one to care for it and lead it into perpetuity.
Wonderful. All right. Anybody else have an announcement they want to share? I see Anne speaking, but you're muted, and then Mary.
My dog was barking. I think a lot of us watched that on the Facebook, on YouTube or whatever. So that it was really wonderful, Lynn. It was quite something. I just have a tiny little excruciatingly personal announcement, which is that we got our last kid married over the weekend. Woohoo! So.
Congratulations.
That's great. I had no idea. That's wonderful.
I have something. Our Mary Lipsy is won't tell you, but as most of you know, Mary and I are docents down at Museum of American History, and during COVID, those docents that have something special that want to do, it's called a peer review, and so she gave an incredible presentation on Clara Barton, the Red Cross, and we have Clara Barton's ambulance, and Mary's father discovered it in a field, and so she had this wonderful story, and there were very few questions when it was over, only applause, virtual applause, because she was so detailed. It was absolutely wonderful. So I just wanted to let everybody know what Mary does in her spare time. Something that wonderful. So thank you, Mary. It was really great.
Thank you. I wasn't going to announce that, but I want to share that Phyllis and I worked with two wonderful young ladies from West Springfield High School who interviewed, did 5 interviews of African-American county residents, and they did a phenomenal job. They interviewed them and found photos from their yearbooks and added those to the pictures, and also have made Zoom recordings. And so the written transcripts that they've made and also the Zoom recordings will be available in the Virginia room.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. I think I saw David. Were you waving?
Well, I was just going to say that something's going on at West Springfield High School. I think there's if I recall, an AP history teacher who puts a high priority in having students engage locally.
Yeah, Brian.
And so we've had some West Springfield students also as docents and interpreters at the Blenheim Historic Site in the city of Fairfax. So there's some good students continuing to come out of West Springfield High School.
Cool. All right. Any other announcements? Steve or Carol, do you have anything?
Oh, you know what? I'm waiting to hear back from the awards committee. We're going to try to do a meeting this month, so I will let you all know the date that gets set.
Okay, thanks. Tammy, go ahead.
I just wanted to highlight something that Denise sent out and something that Phyllis Walker Ford has been talking about with me, is the dedication of the Ona Judge marker. And that is scheduled for June 19th at 10 a.m. And we got to save the date for that, and the History Commission is invited. And I don't know exactly what the ceremony will entail. I imagine we'll hear next week, but it might be something that folks want to attend.
Yeah, that's should be cool. Neat. Thank you. Yeah, that's a great story. Anybody else? Any other further announcements? Anyone wish to make a motion to adjourn then?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So thank you very much, everybody. Very productive meeting. Appreciate your patience and enjoy this gorgeous weather we've been having.
Hey, and thank you, Elliot, for your first set of minutes. You rock. I don't know if you're there still with us, but thank you very much.
Excellent.
Yes, they were.
Have a happy 4th of July, everybody.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's
Happy.
right. Yes.
Right.
Oh,